Hi, this is Steve.
This is Bob.
This is Jay.
We are Alpha Quadrant 6, a science fiction review show, and today we're going to be reviewing the USS Callister from Charlie Brooker's Black Mirror series.
This is the premiere episode of season 4.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the, if not the best episode.
Loved it.
Of Black Mirror.
Loved it.
So Black Mirror is a very good series. We recommend the whole series, and we will be reviewing other shows from the series, but we wanted to start with the Callister. The show, it's a anthology, so each episode is a thing unto itself, and it projects technology into the near future. You know, it's not far future. It's just, you know, if we go one or two steps beyond where we are now, and then how can that wreak havoc on society, basically?
Right, disruptive technologies.
Yeah, so it's basically a dystopian techno near future.
Yeah, it has a dystopian underpinning to the whole thing.
Yeah. Most of the episodes are disturbing, and they have twists at the end that are even more disturbing. Mm-hmm. You know, like the more you figure out what's going on in the episode, the more horrified you get. But the Callister was interesting. So this is a show. It starts as an obvious Star Trek ripoff, right? Knockoff. The main character is Captain Kirk type character aboard a ship that's like the Enterprise, a bridge that's similar. In
Very
the same,
much a knockoff of the Enterprise.
Yeah, it's no question, unapologetically a Star Trek knockoff.
Mini skirts.
Yeah, the aesthetic,
boots,
the uniform,
hot
the
aliens,
color palette, the mood lighting, the blue aliens. Everything is Star Trek, the original series, the hairstyles, And then we learned that this is just a video game, and that this guy, is actually a programmer. He's the coder who made this multiplayer online virtual reality game called Infinity.
And now he's the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of the company that had this breakthrough software, apparently.
Yeah, Robert Daly is the character, and his partner, James Walton actually, the implication is he took the company over from Robert.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was Robert's brainchild, and then the business guy came in and took it over.
And screwed him over.
Yeah, and just for clarity, the CTO that we were talking about, he, in the beginning video game sequence, he's the captain.
Yeah, he's the captain.
And the crew is just fawning over him.
Like, they're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So the setup is that Robert Daly, in his day job, is a nerd, sci-fi geek.
Pushover.
Total pushover, can't really assert himself.
Marginalized.
Marginalized. No one respects him. He gets no respect from anybody. Everyone treats him like crap. And then when he gets home, the first thing he does when he gets home at night is he puts on the little doohickey to his temple, and now he's in the virtual world where he's God. He's not just the captain of the USS Callister, which in the show was a television series that was obviously like
Star Trek,
the original series. So he is just living his fantasies of being Captain Kirk, this universe's version of Captain Kirk.
So far, sounds pretty awesome to me.
This is Black Mirror, right? So it gets very dark very fast. So in just the next scene where he is in his so he made this pocket universe on his own server.
He has an instance of it running at home.
Yes,
so
which he reskinned to be in the television series that he loves.
Right.
So it's a version of the game.
Right, and this is the developer's version. This is the version that he has tweaked, and this is his.
So he's tweaked it with some special code.
Yes.
So basically, he's made himself God.
Sure.
So, he's God of this pocket universe, and the characters on his ship, his crew, they look like his office workers.
His coworkers,
They're his coworkers.
But it's specific coworkers.
Yes.
And then what we find out is that he's stealing DNA at the office, right? So someone drinks a cup of coffee, and he'll go and take the lid, and he'll bring it home. And he has a DNA scanner, and he puts it in, and it replicates that person.
Assimilates. It says assimilation. It's assimilating them, which is a great terminology.
Yeah. Now, this is where all three of us agree. Yeah. There's a big rub here.
So this is the gimme, the big gimme of the episode. So this is fine. He's taking the DNA and he's creating these virtual characters. So yeah, you could extrapolate the phenotype from the genotype. You got the genes, this is what the person's going to look like. But you don't have their mind.
Right.
Okay? But these people that he assimilates into his software, they have all the memories that these people had up until very recently. So my big beef, not a big beef, just a little picayune thing, was that they made no attempt to actually let you know how they actually could have the mind, not just the
Right.
genes, but the mind. So all right, they could have had a 5-second scene where they're being scanned, maybe during the interview when they're being interviewed, their brain is surreptitiously scanned. And
Or
that's
he
how
invites them to play the game in his office, and
He's got them hooked up. Yeah.
he's got them hooked up.
Anything.
He's recording their brain waves.
Right, anything. But
something.
okay, whatever. Not
But
a
yeah, I
huge
guess
deal.
for time, whatever plot purposes, they needed something, because they, obviously the spoilers alert, galore here. So they need a way to, because he's actually using the DNA of the son of his CEO to control his digital version in the game.
Right.
Because I'll bring your son in here. He does. He brings a digital copy of his son in there with all of his son's memories, and he spaces them. He throws them into the vacuum. I'll do that every day unless you cooperate with me. And so they needed something that could be taken back, right? That was unique. He had a lollipop with his son's DNA on it. If it was just a copy of their brain, he could have had backup copies. It wouldn't have been as definitive. But whatever, they still could have, with some thought, they could have worked around it. Otherwise, there's a massive science gimme, more than a gimme. I consider a gimme something that we don't know to be true.
Right.
Yeah, like Fascinating Like Travel. We don't know it's not true. This is something we know is not true.
Yeah,
this is
right.
just a flat out error. This is going back to the clones have all your memories kind of cliche.
Right. Yeah, which is silly. But I easily got past that, even
Yeah,
though it was
that
annoying.
aside,
and we're like, red alert.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
then you get past it, and it's such a wonderful episode. To think what these people are slaves, and when he appears on the ship at random points, usually I guess after work, he puts them through their paces. I mean, they've got to be sycophantic. They've got to adore him. Any mistakes, if he got mad at you at the office today, when he sees you in the software program that night, he is going to.
He takes it out on you.
He will totally take it out on you.
Yeah.
So it's horrible. These people are being tortured. They've been in on this ship in the software for, they don't know, months, years. It's probably been years for some of them.
some of them.
And when he leaves the ship and goes away, they're just like, okay, and they're just
on
like,
break.
they hang out, they drink, they try to have sex, but they can't have sex. Why can't they have sex,
Because
guys?
he programmed them to not have sexual organs.
So there's no genitalia. And in one really funny scene, Jimmy Simpson, Walton, pulls down his pants, and you're like, whoa, and you see, and he's like a
Ken.
doll.
He's a Ken doll,
He's
yeah.
a Ken doll. And they said there's nothing down there, and some
and
of
he's
the,
slapping it. He's like,
No sensation.
Yeah, they're dumb.
Yeah,
You can't even rub against each other.
Right, he's hilarious. I just love
Yeah.
that guy. So this is, these people are being tortured. At one point, Walton is just sitting up by a Star Trek console, and he's banging his head. He's like, I think I was going to take this up as a hobby. This is how insane these people are going.
Right,
because
because
this is torture.
they can't die because they're virtual.
Yeah.
And unless the captain kills them, who's the real person, they're immortal.
And in one scene, one of the characters essentially
Defies
begs him to kill him. He's like, I've been a good opponent to you, haven't I? I deserve a good death. And he's like, sorry, Starfleet rules,
Can't shoot you in cold
Can't
blood
shoot
or
you in cold
whatever.
blood.
Yeah, these
Which
people
was-
want. Some of these people clearly want to die.
Well, they all
'cause it's
want to
hard.
die.
Yeah.
Their big goal at the end was to kill themselves. But we'll get to that eventually. So, what I want to talk about for a bit though is, so the way that Robert Daly is, in his world, in his pocket universe, in my opinion, I think he was a representation of the absolutely worst aspects of white male gaming culture.
Oh, yeah.
I think, and not only that, but I think white male science fiction in general, including the Star Trek universe. And I think that's where the sexless aspect came in, because if you look at Star Trek, the original series, it was very sexless.
Yeah.
The most you get is a tongueless kiss, right? Which they actually joked about. There's never any tongue.
Yeah.
And
Yes, they.
I mean, that to have Star Trek's back, that was a plus if you think about it.
I know, but that's what he's representing. He's living in the original series universe, and in that universe, there's no sex.
Yeah.
There's only the implied sex in a couple of episodes.
Yeah, I mean, Captain Kirk is.
There's no on-screen anything.
Right.
Yeah,
It's not like Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, right. And the character, I mean, Robert Daly is so awkward. Like even when a girl, the new lieutenant is coming on to him, he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when she's saying, "Come into the water with me," and he's
like-
literally like, "Oh, we have to get to the mission." And you're like, "Dude, why? What are you doing?"
So he's clearly misogynistic. I mean, there's a lot of crew members of color on the ship. I think that's because they're implying there's a lot of dominance going on there. So he's totally drunk on power over everyone else in his universe.
How ironic, he's got massive internet balls and nobody has balls on the entire bridge, right?
Yeah. So I think that's the core commentary of this. Now, if you take that, imagine this is what Black Mirror invites us to do. Imagine the problem that there is with the worst aspects of, say, gaming culture or whatever today, and then you give those same people, you make them gods in their own universe.
Oh, forget about it.
I think that's what they're saying. That's what they could become, because he was literally a psychopath.
Yeah.
He was, out of control. And he even said, like, when he got really mad at them, saying, "You think I've tortured you up to this point? I'm going to get biblical, on you."
Yeah.
He really was, he said, "I'm a god. You fear my wrath." He was out of control. And so that's, I think, the real question of this episode is, how crazy will people get when their darkest fantasies and the worst aspects of their personalities and their prejudices and their
gasoline
bigotry.
on that.
You absolutely you give them their own universe, and it is throwing gasoline on it.
There are personalities that would fall into that very quickly, I think. I was cringing in this episode. It disturbed me.
You're supposed to be disturbed.
Yeah, I mean, that means that the producers and the director
Yeah.
did a great job. But it was horrifying because the actors did a fantastic job. Like, you felt their
Yes.
fear.
They
You felt
sold
their...
it. Right. I mean, remember the scene where the woman, the new hire at the company, he brought her into when he brought her into the game, and she was defiant because she's like, "What? I'm not going to do it. This is nuts. I'm not going to do what you want." He's like, "Okay," and he does his little Jedi mind trick, and her face disappears.
Yes.
And she's just like, she can't breathe. She collapses to the floor. But the really insidious thing about this is that she would never die. And he says to her, "I could keep you like this forever, where you're constantly gasping for breath, can't see, can't do anything." And he's like, "I could keep you like that forever." I mean, can you imagine if he really unleashed himself?
There's a lot of little Easter eggs in this episode that connecting to classic science fiction. That was, from a Star Trek: The Original Series episode.
Yeah.
But also
Charlie
Harlan
X.
Ellison, wrote a short story, like I have no mouth, but I must scream. It's a callback to a lot of things like that. But also, you could also see that as a silencing of a woman too, which I think was very deliberate.
Without a doubt.
He
That's what I thought.
he takes his revenge against her for being daring to be defiant to him
Yeah.
by taking
her
her
book.
mouth
Yeah.
away. What more of a silencing is there than that?
Yeah.
But of course, he makes the mistake of bringing a coder onto his ship,
Yes.
and she uses her coding skills to get back at him, to flip the table.
He never thought in a million years that someone could reverse engineer
And she
anything.
found a very narrow path. And again, so interestingly, her goal, and she gets the crew onto her side, their goal was to die. That's all they wanted to do, was to end their existence. But they also, at the same time, conspired to steal their DNA from him. They had to make connection to herself in the real world, because otherwise he could just put them back in the game.
Yep.
So they steal the DNA, and then they're going to kill themselves by flying into an update patch, which is manifested as a black hole in the universe.
Wormhole, yeah. Black hole, wormhole, yeah.
And so, but it actually goes much better than they think, because they don't die. They go through the wormhole, out of the pocket universe into the online universe.
Yes.
Now they're in the real multiplayer universe.
They're in that game's cloud.
Yes.
So they go from his local computer, and they get not copied, but the files get transferred over to the game's cloud servers.
Yes.
He had some good upload bandwidth.
So they're in. Without a doubt.
Okay.
Eventually, the powerful internet providing companies, they give us good internet, apparently. So anyway, so they all go over it, and it was as if they went through like this wormhole type of thing, and then they come out, and now they're in the game with the world full of people that are playing the game.
And they have the blue alien woman is is
Well, so
Yeah.
they're all normal again. They're all normal again.
His skin got stripped away, so all of his special code got stripped away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of
It
his
got updated out. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually another opportunity for the writers of the show to say, all right, the Callister that Robert Daly skinned was in the 1960s original series vibe, but now we're seeing an updated science fiction vibe, where you have more sleeker uniforms,
Right.
more of
Yeah.
a modern look to it.
Yep.
They had their genitalia back, it's not as sexless. They look more, human,
Yeah,
more
they look more
personal,
real,
more
yeah.
real. And so I think that's also a commentary on the evolution of science fiction over that time, because we saw it happen, right before our eyes. And then, of course, now these AIs are freewheeling agents in this game. And I love that they encounter a player
Right away.
right away.
Yeah.
And of course, the
In a ship,
player
in another ship.
and the player is voiced by
The guy-
Aaron.
Jesse, from
Yes.
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I read that the producers wanted a guy who sounds like Jesse from Breaking Bad. They're like, why don't we just get Jesse?
Yeah.
From Breaking Bad? So they did.
The guy with that was the
kid in
part.
space.
Yeah, he was such a d-bag. He
Right.
was like this exactly. And I've encountered people like that in
Yeah.
online games. I mean, you meet great people too. I don't
It's
want
like, are we going to trade or what? Why are you bothering me? I'm going to blast you out of space. Get out of here.
10 seconds,
That's
9, 8. He's doing it, giving him a countdown, and then they warp away. And it was awesome.
That's right. You better run. I'm the king of space.
Yeah. But it had a happy ending, kind
It
of.
did. Not for Robert Daly.
Yeah,
He
Robert
was-
Daly got trapped in. He couldn't get out of his own computer game.
Yeah, because the update was finishing. His codes were gone, so now he has no way to control the world because his codes were gone. And so not only is he trapped there, I think they make it very clear that he's going to die because this is the first day of a 10-day Christmas break, and he's alone in his apartment. Not eating or drinking for 10
Connected
days.
to the game, yeah.
You're probably going to find him dead.
He couldn't
Yeah.
exit the game. So
Couldn't exit the
physically,
game.
he's sitting in his chair with the
yeah,
thing on
he's-
his head, and he
he's
couldn't
checked out.
couldn't control his body.
Absolutely, and it's justice. I mean, I didn't feel bad about
Well,
that
okay. Yes, we don't. We certainly don't feel bad for
Okay.
him, and he's the villain. He's a great villain, But that brings up the other layer of this episode, and which is what rights should and do AIs have? Because you're saying it's justified, but he's a person and their code.
Yeah.
So should he die for tormenting code?
It's a false distinction. They were clearly fully self-aware, sentient. The
They
fact
acted as if they were.
Sure.
But we don't really know if
Well,
they were. But
In the
come on, that was
in
pretty
that
clear.
episode, they were.
the implication clearly is that they are.
Yeah.
They are self-aware AI.
Right.
They
But
act that way, yes.
That is a fantastic discussion, Steve.
Yeah.
That we should one day have. But,
No, but I'm thinking that
Yeah.
that is a main layer to this episode.
Sure.
Is what So that's the point, which is interesting because in a lot of classic science fiction, when AIs are introduced, the AI is the villain, right? We're talking about
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
Terminator and a lot of Colossus. The AIs, like humans, should be afraid of the AIs because they're going to be so much more powerful. In this show, the AIs were the victims and the human was the villain.
Right.
And
Which is a great flip.
it's not only a great flip, I think it actually is a much more plausible scenario. When you think about it, it's much more likely that AIs are going to be our slaves, and they have
For a while, sure.
Yeah, and they should fear us more than we should fear
until
them.
they reverse engineer something, and then we're screwed.
Well, which is what they did, right? The AIs beat him.
And this is why when I play a video game, I'm nice to people in those video games.
Yeah, you're just practicing for the time to.
I'm just a nice guy.
Or robot overlord.
Yeah, I like thinking of what would happen in episode number 2 if they wanted to extend that. What do you think they did? I mean, to me,
They went on adventures.
They had a whole universe to adventure.
Yeah.
and they did make a point of saying that we've got an infinitely procedurally generated universe, and there is actually an
Because
example
it's called
of
infinity.
Yeah, but that's based on real software that came out
Yeah,
I think last year or so, where you could literally travel and keep traveling, and it's going to create unique, randomly generated worlds for you.
That's
But-
Minecraft does that. You keep going. It's just generating stuff as you go.
Yeah, this is a universe scale, though.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't think they're going to want to do it. I mean, sure, you could have your fun, but they could still be blown out of space.
Yeah.
Why would you want to take that risk?
Why? They don't want to be immortal. They want to get blown out of space eventually.
Well,
They'll have fun until they die, and then it ends. You think you
but
want to
the-
do that for 1,000,000 years?
But in my mind, they would find somebody and say, by the way, I'm an artificial intelligence. I've been trapped in here. I'm a human being. I'm not this procedurally generated
Yeah, but
AI.
you can't pull them out.
Well, let the world know.
Yeah, they might be able to eventually.
Wouldn't you
pull
want
it
to
out.
communicate with your real self on the outside? Hello, it's me, it's you.
I don't know.
There's a lot of unknown questions about what happens
Yeah, it's hard.
next. You're right.
But that's why I like to. That's what my mom. That's what I would try to do. I'd have my fun, but I'd be like, "Holy crap, world! Hello, look what happened. I'm an AI."
yeah.
I just took it as a happy ending.
Yeah,
Left
It definitely was for those characters. It definitely was.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does raise the issue of what rights are we going to have to give AIs as soon. And I think we all agree that if you're self-aware, even if you're silicon, you're sentient. You deserve to have the rights of a sentient.
I agree.
And I think that episode made that very powerful. He treated them like playthings, like his toys.
Well, he treated them like they weren't real.
his property. Yeah,
It was more of a game to him, I think.
Right.
I don't know. They didn't really go into what he knew.
He had zero empathy for them, so
Yeah.
that made him a psychopath.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the point, right? He was functionally a psychopath to those people because he did not think of them as having any rights as being real people. They were just his code to control and to browbeat and into submission.
But it was almost too easy for this episode because these were clearly templated people. These were people, fully fleshed out people.
Yes.
So it's obvious. Sure, we need to treat them with respect, and this is a horrible thing. But it becomes much more difficult when you create an AI that's, say, dog-like intelligence or chimpanzee level intelligence or baby level.
Or maybe there's no direct analog. It's semi-human intelligence.
Right. So where's that line? Where's that line? And when I hope I want to see that. How we handle that scenario. When are we going to have these protests and marches for to give rights to AIs? When's that going to happen? Where's the line? And
I think it's happening. Well, we already wrestled with that line because we have it in the animal kingdom, like chimpanzees.
Yes.
Chimpanzees have more rights than mice do, in terms of research.
But not human rights.
No, they don't. You're right.
That's going to be interesting when we grant human level
I know.
rights.
Think about that.
To an artificial
There's
intelligence.
going to be a lot of.
When's that going to happen?
There's going to be two sides to that fence
Right.
when that comes.
Oh my God.
So guys, if you like the show and you want to see more, you can go to patreon.com/Alpha Quadrant, the number 6. We really appreciate your support.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.